Yeah, I see you bought it at CarMax.
Yeah, I did 2 track day before the 30-day return.
Are you inviting dancer friends here? What's going on here? You got a pole in the middle of your car.
Yeah, that's
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Sub 2 Club. Today I'm here with Bennet Kao. What year is this?
Yeah, 2022 SS1LE.
And it's pretty much stock, right?
Pretty much. I mean, besides the wheels, it's Apex wheels. Brake pad is Chevrolet.
Okay.
Yeah, and then stock powertrain. Pretty much stock suspension except for the rear tow arm and camber arm. I swapped to the SPLs because they have a tendency to slip. So I didn't want to keep doing alignment every single track day. So swap them to the SPL.
Okay. So with this car, you were able to do what? 1 minute?
1 minute 55. But that's with the Supercar 3R. Today I'm with the OEM tire, which is Supercar 3.
Okay.
They're about a couple seconds slower,
Yeah.
but I still expect like a 56, 57
Yeah.
from this car.
Right.
Yeah. So the brake is this after 2021, California require a copper-free pads.
Oh,
so
yeah.
what happened is that they upsized the SS1LE brake kit to a much larger one. This is it basically share the same brake as the Z01-1LE.
Oh.
This is a 400 millimeter rotor.
Massive.
It used to be 370 only. So now it's 400, which is great because it has a ton of thermal capacity. Even not using the best brake pad, it's good. The downside is that the brake pad is much harder to find. That's the previous gen SS1LE, the brake pad basically every manufacturer makes them. But with this one, I had to get a custom-made one from Chevrolet.
I see.
Yeah.
Man, they're massive.
Yeah, they are massive.
How does it brake?
I really like it, to be honest. I'm running Chevrolet in the front and the rear Z01-1LE brake pad in the rear.
Okay.
And they're pretty balanced so far. And
Sounds like someone spun out.
yeah, someone's spun out. I mean, sunset, what else, right?
Yeah.
So they've been pretty balanced. I don't daily drive this car, so it's not really an issue.
Okay.
Too lazy to brake swap.
Yeah, I see you bought it at CarMax.
Yeah. I did 2 track day before the 30-day return warranty.
Oh, nice.
And then the car didn't brake, so I was like, okay, I guess I'm keeping it, since it didn't brake.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about the wing?
No, so the wing, this is the bottom part is stock for the SS1LE. The top is a dealer install option.
Nice.
The little
Garni flap?
garnet flap is a dealer install option. So yeah, I bought it second hand. So the previous owner did a couple kind of tiny little cosmetic mods,
Yeah.
which I thought was nice because
Yeah.
like the blinker is no longer amber yellow. It's now clear
Oh,
smoke.
nice.
So it makes the whole car looks a lot more cohesive in a
Yeah.
sense. Like imagine if those were yellow ember, it doesn't look as nice. Yeah.
And you just bought the wheels and tires, I assume?
So the wheels actually came with the
nice.
car. Tires, CarMax put some, like PS4S equivalent. So yeah, anyway, so I just took out the 3 tires. First I tried the 3R and then now I'm trying the 3, which is, the OEM tire that came with the car. Yeah.
What are the specs on the wheels?
The specs on wheels, they're 20 by 10.5 in the front and 20 by 11.5 in the rear.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Tires at 285, 30/20. Rear is 305, 30/20.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's slight slagger. But the car is still turning pretty well.
Okay.
If you don't ask the front to do too much, it still does what you ask it to do. The turn-in
Okay.
still feels sharp.
Yeah.
It still rotate under trail braking pretty well. And I think the stagger is just help put down the power a little bit better in corner exit. So it's less less handful in the corner exit.
The 20-inch tires are obviously going to be more expensive. Do you have plans to go down to maybe 18 or 19?
Yeah, I've been thinking about it, but the OEM tire is actually pretty cheap for 20, to be honest. A set I can get through my friend for around 1,200, and they're supposed to last like 5-6 track days. So it's on par with most of the 18. If I do go 18, you mainly to go with maybe slicks, something a little more grippier. 19, I would go with 3R because the Z01-1LE come with the size for 19 for the 3R, and yeah, 18 would just be for slicks.
Okay.
But if I do 18, I have to swap out the front brake to something a little smaller. that current kit does not fit 18.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can tell it's already full, even in the 20, you know. So 18 is gonna be, I don't think it's possible, to be honest. Yeah.
All right. Can we see under the hood? Is this black normally?
It's a matte wrap from coming from the factory. So that's this factory wrap. They even have a part number for this. So if something gets damaged, you know, I would just have a. Where are you? There you go. Yeah. So you can see that this is actually a functional vent.
Yeah.
There is a water shield.
Nice.
You just take it off for track.
Yeah.
And then this is actually a factory cold air intake. So he actually pipes to the front for cold air intake.
Okay.
Mostly stock. The top had a switch to Vorschlag camber plate.
Okay.
Just to get a little more camber.
Yeah.
But it turns out this car wears the inside of the tire a lot more than the outside. So initially I was running 3.5, 3.6. And what happened was that after 2 track day, I had no inside.
Interesting.
On a pretty much brand new set of 3Rs. So I was like, okay, maybe time to dial it down a little bit. So right now my current alignment is about -3 front camber, -2 in the rear. So it's still pretty balanced. But yeah, I wish I could dial in a little more camber in the front, but tire wear, gotta balance it out. You know?
Yeah. This is a McPherson type,
This
right?
is McPherson, yes. It's a pretty simple suspension, nothing special. It's a mag ride, and it rides really, really well, you know, in touring mode. But on track, it firms up quite a bit. But the spring rate, you can still tell the spring rate is soft. So even though the damper is controlling a lot of the body motion, you can tell that the spring rate is still relatively soft. So for example, the 0110E, based on my research, has 3x the spring rate compared to the mag ride. Yeah, so that's why this car can be more of a dual duty, kind of civilized daily if you want it to be. And you know, you can take it to track, rip it for like 155, 154, you know, if you're a good driver.
That's incredible.
Yeah. That's still fun.
So yeah, this is a direct injected, right?
This is, yes, direct injection. I wanted to get a oil catch can, but that's something I probably have to do eventually. If I keep the car long enough, that's something that I would do. We'll see.
6.2 liter?
Yes, 6.2 liter.
Liter.
It makes about 450 at a crank, 450 horsepower, 450 torque. Okay. So it's got a nice low end punch. The gearing, I would say it's a little tall. On this track, you constantly between 3 and 4. Off ramp, you're going to 2 for a little bit, but you're constantly between 3 and 4 on this track. Yeah, it's a little tall.
How heavy is this car?
It should be around 37.
Okay.
Yeah, 37, 100 pounds.
Yeah.
So it's not a light car by any means. Right. Like my previous track car was a BRZ, so the Gen 2 BRZ, and it's about 1,000 pounds heavier.
Yeah.
But you know, like it still turns decently well. It's just that you can't toss it around like you can on the BRZ. You have to be really, you know, under control with this car. You control the body motion, the weight, you know. But it still hits like really high speed, say at like Riverside. I'm entering Riverside at like 104, you know, and then main speed was maybe like 92, 93, exiting at like over 100. So yeah, so overall it's still a fun car to drive, but you definitely feel the weight of the car in under braking, you know, and then in slow speed turns and things like that. So.
Yeah. Stock. Simple.
Very stock.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I really like the shifter feel of this car.
Yeah.
I mean, I only had a BRZ to compare it to, but yeah, go ahead, of course.
Hey Bennett, where are the vents on this car? I don't see the vent.
Down there.
Yeah.
The little jet vents.
Can you make it any bigger?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty nice interior.
It's actually a really nice interior. It's an upgrade from a Gen 2 BRZ.
Okay.
You know, and it's very driver focused. A lot of information that you need is right in the, you know, in the cluster. And then you also have a heads-up display with the shift shift light. Basically, it'll tell you when to shift, and also speed and as well as RPM. So overall, it's really nice. Alcantara everywhere, which is really nice, and it comes in with the built-in knee pads. Oh, nice. Which I had at for myself for the BRZ because I keep bruising my knee in the BRZ. End up going to Amazon to buy knee pad, but these come built in. The Z01 come with red. The SS108 only come with the black. Gotcha. Yeah.
And are you inviting dancer friends here? What's going on here? You got a pole in the middle of your car.
Yeah, that's it's called the lap pole, which is used for mounting GoPro.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Or you can have tiny lap dances if you find someone small enough.
Well, that's kind of neat.
It's really neat because you can turn off stability, and you know it since it's hard mounted, it does a decent job. Conveying the motion of the car. Okay. Yeah.
Nice. Obviously, back seat folded.
I call it like a fancy shower pole. That's what it is. Yeah. It looks like a fancy, extended shower pole.
Yeah. Can we see the trunk?
Yeah.
What's in the trunk?
So the trunk opening is very small. That's a
downside.
Very big downside of this car. I mean, the trunk, if you look into it, it's actually pretty big. I was able to carry a whole cart of grocery from Costco inside the trunk, but it's just the opening is very weird shaped. Yeah. You know, so I think they did that so they can make the lid as light as possible. Yeah. So this is all plastic, so it's lighter. Yeah. So
makes sense.
Otherwise, you have a big trunk like the Model 3.
Right.
Yeah.
And what's that over there?
Mag right control module. So you can actually swap this out for aftermarket one. So they actually sell an aftermarket one that would tune. It's like you can tune the engine mapping, you can tune the mag right mapping, different compression and rebound depending on what you want. But the stocks do pretty well, so I'm not planning to touch it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Stock exhaust.
Yep, stock exhaust. It's a dual mode exhaust, so you can be quiet and loud. I just found out recently, since I got this car secondhand, the previous owner pulled the fuse on the exhaust fuse switch.
Oh, the valve.
So it was constantly loud. When I got it, I was like, why is this car so loud? It's supposed to have dual mode, right? And then I just figured out like yesterday that it actually had dual mode. So when I left at 4:15 in the morning, I didn't wake up my wife and kids. Good. Before, I was like, oh my God, this is gonna wake up everybody in the neighborhood.
I know you had other cars before.
Yep.
What did you start track days with?
I started my very, very first track day on a Tesla P85D, which is Model S. It's a big car, close to 5,000 pounds. Went to Laguna Seca for EV refuel, like a refuel day, which is an EV only kind of day. The car basically started pulling power because it started overheating about like around corkscrew, it started overheating.
Oh, really?
So I was like, okay, you know what? Electronic's kind of fun, but it's too heavy. Motor battery overheats too easily. So when the Model 3 came out, I test drive it in the Canyon. It's much lighter, much more nimble, and the performance is still pretty snappy, pretty quick. So I got a performance 2018 Model 3 performance model, which is all-wheel drive, and then I started modding it. So I took it to the track, bone stock. The car was good, but it was very floaty because it's a hard spring rate, but the shock actually there wasn't enough rebound force to control the motion of the car. So when you're exiting S's, you're like tilting 45 degrees, which is very scary. So I started modding it and put a bunch of basically the whole entire catalog of mountain pass performance parts on it. Coilovers, all the arms, and traction control, cooling module. But what happened is that still the car is lighter, it's around 4,000 pounds. But at Buttonwillow, I can maybe get 2 hot laps before the car would start overheat again. That's the kind of bane of the EV existence on the track, overheating. And so I keep doing 2 hot laps, and I have to do a bunch of days just to learn, because I get 8 laps a day basically, and I have 8 laps of worth of data to study, and go home. And next time I come out, I get 8 more laps to improve. But I eventually improve. I started at like 2:15. I think that was my first track day. Yeah. Took about a year to go into sub 2. Yeah. And I was pretty happy when I broke sub 2, but then starting to, you know, refine my driving even more and more by studying the data, watching video, asking people who's, you know, better than me, like you, Peter. So, and eventually it got better. So my best time in the Model 3 was a 154.3, and that's on the Super 3R tires.
Yeah.
But then I wanted to try something else because, you know, doing 2 laps a day is just not fun. And I always have this like idea like, okay, I want to learn how to drive a manual, you know, because if I want to do a race car, a Chem car, Lemon, whatever, it's going to be a manual. It's not going to be automatic, right? So if I want to go into like wheel-to-wheel racing or just something else, I need to learn manual. So eventually, I got a BRZ, a Gen 2 2022 BRZ, which is Gen 2. And, you know, I had to invite my friend to go with me because I didn't know how to drive manual. So I was stalling during the test drive. So he's like, get out, let me drive back to the dealership. This is embarrassing. So he drove the car back, he drove the car to a parking lot, and then I basically practiced. Then I drove the car home, stalled multiple times. But a month later, I took it to Thunderhill West and started practicing heel toe, you know, and just manual driving techniques on the track. You know, so at first it was very challenging. It was very busy, just like as if I didn't know how to drive, you know. So, but about like after a day or two, I started getting used to it. And I think I sub 2 at Buttonwillow, probably I want to say like the 4th or 5th track day with that car. But I did cheat it. I did come out and did a semi-exclusive, which means I had to track all by myself. I burned through 1 entire set of tires just to tune the suspension and to, you know, to drive the car. And then I don't have to worry about anyone else because there's no one around, which is great actually. So, but I did sub 2 that day, so that was pretty cool. And then I started modifying the car further. And eventually I did do a 158 flat. I had 3 chances to break into 157, but it was a checker, it was burn the sunset, and checker again. So I never got a 57.x that I wanted. But eventually I broke the 4th gear transmission at Buttonwillow one of these days. And, you know, after the car was warranty and everything was good, my friend, who had basically the same car as me, popped his motor at Riverside. So, and then there, at the same time, there was a lot of issue regarding FA24 with oiling issue, which oil pressure drop less than 20 psi for right-hand turns. And guess what? Which race course has the most right-hand turn?
Clockwise.
Buttonwillow, CW13. So I'm like, oh, I'm in danger. So I was like, you know what? I don't really want to deal with the pop motor, especially after I just got my transmission fixed. So that's why I sold the car.
I see.
You know, and I got a car which is basically known to be track ready out of box. It has diff cooling, transmission cooling, which both the BRZ didn't have. I had even added my own oil cooler for the BRZ, but this one has all the engine cooling, diff cooling, transmission cooling that you need to drive for sustained 20 minutes driving. So that's why I was like, you know, and then GM also cover warranty if it's like bone stock on the track, you use the correct oil weight. They cover warranty if something happens. And that's why I was like, I'll give it a choice.
What do they recommend for oil?
They recommend 15W50.
Okay, on track.
On track.
That's on the manual.
That's on the manual. So they say optional.
Right.
And it's actually required for the Z0110E because they have aero package and the 3R tires. So this one doesn't have dry sump. That's why with the more G-force, they want a thicker oil to keep the oil pressure up, which makes sense. But I'm running it because I'm a decently proficient driver, so I'm pulling decent G, so I'm like, okay, you know what, just to be safe. I also don't daily drive this car anyway, so there's no point using the lighter weight oil.
Okay.
Yeah.
So out of the 3 cars you mentioned, what's your favorite? If you have to go back and choose one, which one would you choose?
If the BRZ doesn't break so easily, definitely the BRZ.
Okay.
It's the consumable cost is probably 1/3 of what this car and the Tesla is running. Same thing, for gas, tires, everything. The Roll 1/3. I put down a really respectable lap time. I was running non-aero and then Kumho V730 tires and 158 flat, which is, basically S2K time. So I was like, this is a car that I can grow with in terms of as a driver. I can grow with, I can try different technique. It has a really, really low center of gravity, boxer engine, sits so low. It feels really similar driving dynamic-wise to the Model 3. Because Model 3 also has a really, really low center of gravity, and all the weight of Model 3 is in between the two axles. So the moment inertia is actually very short for such a heavy car. So that's why it turns so well for such a heavy car. Versus this one, you got a big V8 small block sitting in the front, slightly poked past the front axle. So there's a lot more weight. I mean, GM did a wonderful job hiding that weight. And hiding that higher center of gravity. But still, it's there. In the brake zone, in the turn-in, you still feel it. And the tires, you can hear the tires suffering for it. So definitely BRZ. I do think that eventually I would probably go back to the BRZ because someone put the AccuSump in it, and that seemed to resolve the 2-liter AccuSump, and that seemed to resolve the oiling issue for the right-hand turn. And that was my main concern. I mean, secondary was the transmission. I was not the only one who broke a fourth gear on track. Like there was another friend who also broke the fourth gear on track, and it wasn't like misshift or anything. It was in gear, but stop, turn in, go back on gas, pop, and then the fourth gear just shatter. So, so I probably need to figure out a way to maybe do a transmission cooler so that it doesn't run so hot. Or change the transmission oil, every track day or something like that. So, but I do like the BRZ the best.
All right. What does Sub 2 Club mean to you?
Sub 2 Club, I was chasing this forever initially. I feel like this is a threshold. I mean, assuming you have a modern car with decent horsepower, but this is a threshold you cross. Then your journey for track really begins. Then you really start working on the tenth of each corner on the brake zone. Before Sub 2, you're chasing seconds, right? After Sub 2, you're really chasing 10th. Every time you come out here, it's 10th here, 10th there, improvement slowly. So Sub 2 Club is, I feel like it's a good validation of you as a driver who is maturing, but it's really the beginning step into the journey of like high performance driving. Any last thing you want to say, Bennett? No? Just be safe, go have fun, and just bring home the car safely. That's the most important thing.
Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.